Telecameras 3 and 4 working. Activate radio contact with the outside.
Love, wisdom, abundant life. Live a life filled with meaning, purpose, and a sense of accomplishment.
Can you hear me?
Welcome to the Teachings of Enoch. I'm your host, James Allen. Listen every week at this time on KKVV AM 1060 Las Vegas. You can listen online at kkvv.com, on your smartphone using the TuneIn radio app, or listen anytime at teachingsofenoch.com. You can contact me by sending a text message to 702-483-7769. That's 702-483-7769. Or online at teachingsofenoch.com. Let's get started with today's message. And my special guest on the program today, Tony Pedregon, funny car owner, driver, two-time National Hot Rod Racing Association funny car champion, holds 43 career wins. He'll be here in Las Vegas April 5th, 6th, and 7th, racing at the 14th annual SummitRacing.com NHRA Nationals. Tony, welcome to the program. Appreciate you coming on board today.
Appreciate you guys taking the time and following the sport of NHRA.
Oh, love it, love it. Now, Tony, over the years, you've seen all kinds of teams. You've seen some excellent ones, some mediocre, some lousy. What do you think makes a great team?
Well, I think that it all starts with the leadership. Before that, you got to have faith. I mean, I've been involved in the sport on several different levels as a hired driver, and that evolved into having the opportunity to have my own team, continue to drive and manage, and so take the racing out of the equation, and I'm a small business owner. Really, the biggest difference is that we haul a race car to the racetrack on the weekends, and there's a lot involved in the setup and the whole production. But I've always had faith in my upbringing, surrounded myself with good people, and if any of your audience has the opportunity or has not been out to a drag race, you really need to see it to believe it. And once you get to the racetrack, one of the things you're going to notice is there's a lot of, even in a tough economy, there's a lot of money that rolls into town, and that's good for all the businesses. And what that means is there's a lot of financial support, and there's some that have more than others. And really what it comes down to, in a similar fashion with any business, it's all about people. And the ability for those people to work together, and that really is how you achieve success in this business.
Yeah, I remember when I was in school years ago, and I was taking some business courses, and one of the things I've noticed when you get out into the real world, they don't tell you the most important aspect of business is, like you said, Tony, is really the people. They might teach you the principles of accounting and marketing, but like you said, Tony, people is really what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. When it comes down to it, there are teams like myself that, like my company, where we're trying to really work within pretty tight budgets. Again, never a complaint. It's just a fact that some companies, some race teams have more to work with. But I've been on both sides. As a hired driver, I worked for a guy named John Force, who's very well known, very popular.
Oh, yes, of course.
Our sport, and very good funding and a lot of good backing, and it never really guarantees that you're successful on the racetrack. And I have a tendency to always gauge things on how we perform on the racetrack, because just by nature, that's how we really measure how we succeed. It's really all about winning races and winning championships. But as the sport has grown and become more of a not just about racing, it's really become more corporate, which has helped the sport grow. You see all the facilities like the one in Vegas that we're going to be competing at in a week and a half. And what's really changed today versus 20 years ago is it's business. So it's a form of entertainment, but it's a form of business as well. And we have to deliver to the companies that support us. And I've been very fortunate, as tough as things are, have been supported by companies like Wix Filters and Snap-on Tools, all the automotive ones you hear, oil and spark plugs, and even K-Love. We've again, like I mentioned, been able to surround ourselves with good people that, and even prior to me, I as a hired driver, I won a lot of races. I was with a very good race team, and then I had an opportunity to become a team owner, to own my own team, and along with that came all the headaches and all the responsibilities. And it's not really for everyone, but it's the environment that I was raised in. Just being raised in a family environment, family business, with my dad and my brothers, and it never stops. The challenge is always there, and it's fortunately for us, it's a very exciting sport. And just when you think you've had enough and you want out, it just the smell of nitro and the smell of burnt rubber, it never really. It's just something that's real exciting. And even when I get, or I think I'm delusioned or believe that I'm burned out, it doesn't take long for you to get back and really want the urge to come back out at the track.
Now, you mentioned a sponsorship with K-Love. How did that come about?
It's funny that, really in the end, business is about relationships too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You'd be amazed how, things evolve and cultivate and grow. My daughter, I'm born and raised in Southern California, but I live here in Indianapolis now. And my daughter, who's 13 now, she went to Bethesda Christian School for the last several years. And long story short, we've always gotten involved with the ministry, and we've always, besides racing, we've tried to help, children's cancer. And my wife has a foundation that she formed. And just through an introduction with them, it started off as a very small sponsorship, and it was really to allow K-Love to bring some of their donors and some of their guests and partners to some of the races as guests, and it just really grew. And a lot of people don't realize that K-Love didn't pay for the program. It was actually supported by a third party that really wanted to see K-Love at the racetrack. I think we all wanted to put K-Love in the hands of of our audience, and we got a very welcome and warm reception. We were told by a lot of fans that they were glad that K-Love was there. There were more K-Love listeners than I ever thought, which was a pleasant surprise. And I think we exposed K-Love to a lot of people that didn't really know what K-Love was. So it was a win for everyone involved, and it's nice to see the non-automotive companies get involved in racing. It shouldn't just be about wiper blades and tires and wheels, and that just goes to show you that there's growth, and there's anyone that doesn't think that motorsports works. You got to look at a company like STP and all these oil companies, and as long as there's the proper activation and leverage and participation by companies, there's a good return for them, and it does allow some of us to do what we enjoy doing, even though the racing business is tough. It has its ups and downs, just like anything else. But
yeah.
I always go back to that. Hard to top 10,000 horsepower on 0 to 100 miles an hour in 1 second. So there's a level of excitement that's really unmatched.
I'm sure that makes it all worthwhile once that light says go.
It is. A lot of people don't realize that when two cars, they did a study a few years ago, when two cars leave the starting line, it's actually a small earthquake. It registered a little over a 3 on the Richter scale. Anyone from Vegas or from the West Coast, they know what a Richter scale is. So
yeah, we do.
Not like anything else. Everything live is better. If you're not into baseball, if you can actually sit at a baseball game, you really have a tendency to get into it. But especially racing.
Well, I remember, I had never been to a hot rod race until just a few years ago, and a friend of mine came to town. He says, "No, let's go out and let's go to the races. They're this weekend." And I was hooked after that. I mean, when I saw those cars racing and felt that power, it was scary, but it was also addicting. And it was good to see that, people like yourself, people of faith out there, being involved in the sport. And I'm hooked now. So it's a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to be a part of.
Even today, if you go to K-Love and click on to Survive to 5, it's very informative, and there are ways that you can actually sponsor a child for, I think it was a minimal amount, $30 a month. And so it really, it was really intended to, not just to promote, the brand and make more people aware. And I mean, it's literally like church in your car. And I know from my life experiences that, it's like a diet. You can diet for a week or two or for a couple of months, and it's just our nature that we have a tendency to go off of that diet. And I think the great thing about KKVV, if it's there in front of you every day, it's just something that you live by and you stay so close to. It's like our family. When our family's close, we have a tendency just to appreciate that every day and up and work and all these other things. And we have a tendency just to drift. And so there was a lot of upsides to the partnership, and we sure hope to get them back and more involved. And we have a pretty good audience. I think we average about 125,000 fans per weekend, and that's over a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we'll probably see every bit of that when we come to town. But that's a pretty good audience that we were reaching, so it had a lot of appeal to Kayla.
Now, Tony, during the racing season, what's your typical day like? And you mentioned earlier, sometimes you kind of, you get so involved, and sometimes you can get a little discouraged and whatnot. How do you keep motivated?
Well, I pray every day. It's funny. I think that for me, a normal race weekend, Fridays and Saturdays consist of qualifying. So we're allowed 2 qualifying runs on Friday. We're allowed 2 qualifying runs on Saturday. We have to qualify to compete on Sunday. And if we can make the cut, they take the top 16 cars. Sunday's a little more intense. Sleepless nights usually take place on a Saturday night. I might wake up and think about my competitor, which you really shouldn't do, but you get the nerves to try to maintain some discipline. But if you have faith, person like myself, we always go back to that same place, and that same place for us is that comfort zone, that knowing that that we're spiritual, we're close to Jesus, that we know that we can say that prayer and make that reconnection. But on race day, I always have to remind myself, and every time I get into the race car, when you can't help but sit right behind that motor and look at that drive shaft and the clutch that's right in front of you and all that power, and so you have the respect for the race car, and we take all the precautions that we can to be safe. And there's so many safety features and mechanisms on these cars to protect the drivers and the fans. But it's just one of those things that I got to say my prayer before I get in the car, and then I get into kind of a race mode to where I really have to be focused. But again, I think our faith allows us to just have that competitive edge, and that's something we're always looking for.
Now, back in February, you had a pretty scary experience out in California when you were qualifying. What happened there, and how did that change your perspective on racing, and how did it affect your family?
Well, it's always a scare for the family. It's one of those things that it made Sports Center. That's not the way you really want to get on, but
right.
Sometimes these cars, they just have some mechanical failures, and there were a couple of events that took place right at the same time, and the end result was, it was a pretty good explosion. The motor blew up, and when it did, it caused the body to lift off of it, and the body probably went a couple hundred feet up in the air. But, it's just one of those things that at the time, we have to it's almost a conditioned response. We have to stop the car, we turn the fire bottles on, try to scrub off some speed and keep that fire under control. But once I was able to get out of the car, I remember thinking, geez, not again. I mean, these explosions, and never get used to them, because they're financially, it's a little bit of a hit in the pocketbook and a little heartburn for a while. But in the end, hey, if I can walk away from something like that, then I'm doing pretty good. And I'm very family oriented. I have 3 children of my own. My boys are 4 and 7, and my daughter's 13. So, if they're healthy, I'm fine. And it's one of those things that I always thank the Lord that He protects us. And not only did I not get hurt, no one else did. And parts and pieces we can always replace. And
right. Yep.
Just one of those things that we have to continue to move forward and not look back and not fall in love with with parts and bodies and all the other things that that can fail on these race cars.
I noticed on your website one of the items you had listed on there was vacation time, any place with your family. And I just love that, because I'm sure with Tony, you've got such a grueling schedule sometimes that and you appreciate just that family time, and that really means a lot.
I've changed over the years. I mean, I was never very wild, and I've never been a drinker, smoker, and I've lived a pretty clean life. And I'm no different than anyone else. Hey, I went through a period of my life that, I had a little more edge to me, but you get older, you get smarter, and you learn to appreciate things more. And race car drivers, if you look at some of the NASCAR drivers today, they got a lot of energy. They're bumping each other off the track and arguing and fighting, and they're racking up the ratings. But it's not for everyone. Hey, I think what we do is pretty exciting. I mean, NHRA is still the second most popular form of racing, second only to NASCAR, and it's just different. I think there's a lot of crossover, and but for me, it's about my family, it's about my faith, and business is up there, but it's not one or two. And sometimes when I get in the car, it's that is at that point in time that becomes the most important thing, to win and to be safe. But the other 98% of the time, it's those things that you just mentioned in that order. So, we still do what's pretty exciting. I don't drive a Ferrari. I drive a Toyota Sequoia, and I need room. It's got to be practical, but you can't deny what these cars do and what some of these drivers, they get in these machines and they rock it to 320 miles an hour in just under a quarter of a mile. So you got to love it.
I was looking on your website, and you had the Harlem Shake video on there. How did that come apart? Your team's on there. Whose idea was that? It's funny.
Know what the Harlem Shake was, and I did a lot of research just to find out where it originated. But if anyone listens to this, you got to go to YouTube and type in Tony Pedregon Harlem Shake, and it's a little bit of a craze, a little bit of a fad that'll come and go, and it's just something fun.
Yeah.
Really, when I had seen several of them. I saw the Miami Heat, and I'm a Heat fan. It was when I saw Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. When I saw their version, I thought, okay, we've got to do this. And then my sons, they were in the house, and my daughter recorded them, and I thought, hey, what is this? What are these guys doing the robot to? And so we decided on a Friday evening after work that it was very spontaneous, and we showed up at the shop Saturday morning, and we got everyone some get-ups and costumes. And the only thing that I did rent was a $70. I spent $70 for a panda suit to have that, and my son's a big panda fan. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and it's racked up, I think, close to 15,000 views, and that'll probably grow. But it was just something fun to do, and I think we were the first drag racing team to do one, and you'll see a lot of other teams, I'm sure follow suit. But by the time they do, it'll probably be on to the next.
Right.
That's crazy, but it was fun.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's nice to do something like that, kind of break yourself out of the routine schedule and have a little fun. I think so many times we get so focused on the details of everyday life and doing this and that we kind of forget to have fun. And it's, life's so short. We've got to have some laughter in there.
Yeah, you really do, and I have to remind myself and the guys. Some of them are pretty bashful and they didn't want to do it. But I'll tell you one real quick story. Is one of the neatest things that I heard when Caleb did show up on our car for the first time, and someone actually walked up to me, and of course there were thousands of fans that some were asking, what is Caleb, and they knew what Caleb was once they got in their car and tuned in. But somebody told me, they said, hey, thanks, you made it okay to be Christian and be here at the races. And I think that really hit home for me, because I think there's a lot of us around. There plenty of Christians and believers, and I think it was good to let them know that race car drivers or mechanics or business owners, we're all the same. We're everywhere. I think we need to stick together. I think we need to continue to to push our agenda, and our agenda is good. It's very family oriented. It's living enjoying life, making good decisions, and it's like going to church. And I think if we can have that in front of us, whether we're at church or whether we're at the races, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, and I'm glad that we had that kind of response, and that was just something I wanted to share with you guys. That was very special, very special comment to me.
That's encouraging. Tony, you have a favorite hot rod track to race on?
I've got some good history there in Vegas. I'm not saying that because, I'm talking to you guys, but I've won 2 championships, and the 2 that I've won, and the first one is 3. I clinched. It was in the final round under the lights, and a lot of drama and a close points battle, and then I made a good move in 2007, and I didn't wrap it up there in Vegas. But I think the facility's great. I think it's a great city. it's funny. It's easy for us to invite a lot of our sponsors that always have a tough time getting to the races. They sure find time for Vegas, but
yeah.
Sears Point, it's such a beautiful area up north, a little north of San Francisco, near Napa. I'm from Southern California, so Pomona's special. In Gainesville, it's a fast track at sea level. And then we race in Denver, and that's a mile high up in the air, so the air gets real thin, and we have to do all these things mechanically just to make up the difference.
As you look back, Tony, at your career, what are some of the highlights professionally that you can look back and say, that was just, those are some great times?
Well, the highlights for a driver, I mean, I'm not going to lie. They're winning the races, winning the championships. I think when it's all said and done, I'll look back, and I'm already experiencing this. I'll look back at my career. I mean, I remember there in Vegas doing a promotion with Carlos Santana. That is a highlight for me. I've spent some time with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley and the wrestler Goldberg and Mike Novak and Chuck Pryor. I mean, from K-Love, it's developing and having those friendships that are few. We do have, and we have a pretty good sized audience, and you really connect with a lot of them. And I've seen kids grow up, that I come to the races and they'll show me a picture of me holding them when they were a kid, and now they're taller than me, and it's, makes you wonder. I've been doing this that long, and I don't feel old, but I think when it's all said and done, those will be the special times for me that I was able to, to make a difference and impact people's lives. Besides the race car, the racing will come and go, but some of those things we'll keep close to our heart forever, and it's those friendships that that we've really forged over the years.
Yeah, it really is all about relationships. Tony, so many times I see people and they are people of faith, but they're not living up to their full potential, whether they be in sports or maybe somebody raising a family or in business or in a ministry. What advice would you give to those people to kind of, go up to that next level and not be satisfied with what they're doing?
Well, I would say that in everything that I do that I feel has been productive, it takes work. It takes effort. You wake up in the morning, you want things a certain way. You have to make an effort to make it that way, whether it's communicating, whether it's physically rolling your sleeves up and doing that work, and you tidy up your room, you go to work, you do a job, and it never ends. And for me, for my wife, for my faith, you can't just say you want to do something. You can't just think it. You have to put it together. You have to make it work. And when you do that, I think you get the results that you want. And I think if more of us could do the physical part of it and do what we say we're going to do and do it the way we say we're going to do it, then I think we'd all be better off. And I find myself, nothing's automatic as a driver, and no 2 days are alike, and regardless of how long I've done it, and I've been to the top of the mountain, I've been to the bottom too, and it just you have to continue to push to move forward, and just you got to maintenance yourself, and that's why for me it works to have good things in your life, good things in front of you, whether it's K-Love or church every Sunday or your Bible. Sometimes not all of us have that schedule that we can do all of these things. Some of these families work. It's tough for them to get out, but there's a way to do it. And for me, it starts with Jesus and being close to the family. And it's different for everyone, but I think that I don't really drive that message home like I should all the time. I think that I surprised a lot of people when we put K-Love on the side. They didn't know a lot of my background. All they knew was, hey, this is Tony Pedregon. This guy's a good driver, bad driver. He's won some races. But they didn't, and they knew a few things about my personal life, but not really what's inside of us. So, I think that we all are a little guilty of not sharing that message enough. I know I am, and when the timing's right, then it's my job to let people know that, hey, this is the life that I choose.
Well, Tony, appreciate your taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here on the program today. My guest today, Tony Pedregon, funny car owner, driver, two-time National Hot Rod Racing Association funny car champion. He holds 43 career wins. Again, he'll be here in Las Vegas April 5th, 6th, and 7th, racing at the 14th Annual SummitRacing.com NHRA Nationals.
What's going on? What are they stopping for?
Love, wisdom, abundant life. That's my hope for you. You've been listening to the Teachings of Enoch. I'm James Allen, your host. You can contact me by sending a text message to 702-483-7769. That's 702-483-7769. Or online at teachingsofenoch.com. You can listen to this program every week at the same time on KKVV AM 1060 Las Vegas. You can listen online at kkvv.com on your smartphone using the TuneIn radio app, or listen anytime at teachingsofenoch.com.